We were inside the Marlboro County Courthouse in July 2023, the day a pair of SLED agents showed up. They were there to interview Joy Williams, the elected clerk of court.
So I see that news reporter right there.
Yes, ma'am.
JODY BARR, he's a stalker. When I saw him at the foot of the stairs, I swear to stalker back again.
Yep.
He says dead end on everything.
Yeah. He gets told a lot somehow.
I know. I don't know how he finds out everything he does, but somehow he does.
Days before, we got a tip that someone at the Marlboro County Sheriff's Office had shredded up to 200 bench warrants. The warrants were for people charged with crimes who just didn't show up for court.
Before you at this time, Mr. Marcus Anderson.
In 2022, deputies charged Anderson with beating his wife in a gas station parking lot, even with an order of protection hanging over him. Investigators say a few weeks later, Anderson confronted his ex-wife, who was also the witness in the case, at this grocery store in town. The grand jury indicted him on that protection order violation, and he was supposed to show up in court to answer the charge. But DeMarcus Anderson never showed up.
So, bench warrant with my signature.
The judge ordered Clerk of Court Joy Williams to issue a bench warrant for Anderson's arrest. But no one in the clerk's office knew that warrant ended up in the sheriff's office shredder. 9 months passed before anyone found out.
A victim kept contacting our office. She was told that there was an active bench warrant from last fall, but the sheriff's office, the girl out there kept saying that there wasn't one.
Marlboro County Sheriff's Chief Deputy Larry Turner went to work trying to figure out what his warrant clerk, Sandy Wilkes, did with that Anderson bench warrant.
I actually talked to the individual here at the Sheriff's Office over our warrants, and she was advised under the old administration that any warrants that were issued by the clerk of court that they would not serve them for them to shred them.
Larry Turner called Tracy, and she had him on speakerphone, and Turner told us that that's what he had found out, that Sandy had, I guess, went to him and said that she had shredded all of them that had my name on them.
But why? The clerk detailed her theory in this SLED interview. South Carolina law gives clerks the powers to issue bench warrants. The Supreme Court's form even gives the option for either a judge or an elected clerk to sign one. Williams told SLED she even checked with both Judge Michael Nettles and Judge Paul Birch to make sure she could sign those bench warrants. The clerk told agents not long after her election in 2020, a deputy told her Sheriff Charles Lemon wasn't serving bench warrants with her signature.
Where were you when that happened?
I was here in the building somewhere. I can't remember which deputy.
How did that come up in conversation?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Did you ever talk to Sheriff Lemon about it?
No.
Okay. Did it ever come back up again?
Not as far as I know. No, not with me it didn't.
Did you do any research at that time?
No.
Okay. Is there any reason you would believe, or that you know, Sheriff Lemon did this as a personal vendetta, that he did it maliciously, or why he would tell?
Because he knew these girls weren't going to vote for him.
Okay, now what leads you to believe that?
Because he told me.
Lemon did? Okay. When did
He
that
didn't
happen?
specifically say what he was going to do, but he did tell me that I would pay for it the next election.
Why is that?
For what my employees were doing.
Which was what? Not voting for him? Okay. Where were y'all when y'all had that conversation?
That was in the courtroom upstairs. He came over and sat down beside me.
Did you ask him at that time why he would say that to you? Like what he meant by you would pay because your clerks didn't vote for him?
He told me. Oh, no, he didn't say, he didn't say what he was going to do. He just, matter of fact, after the first election, he confronted me too.
Okay.
About politics and me not voting for him.
Well, how does he know who voted for who?
He's
Just assuming?
paranoid.
Okay.
Paranoid.
And he told you that the reason he had a grudge against y'all is because the clerks voted?
Because he knew that some my employees didn't vote for him.
Gotcha.
Although the warrant shredding was uncovered in 2023, the SLED investigation shows it started as early as 2021.
But if a bench warrant's been shredded, how they know to find them?
Sheriff Charles Lemon was the sheriff at the time, and Sandy Wilkes was his warrant clerk.
If I had one last talk to him.
In December 2021, the Marlboro County grand jury indicted Lemon over this inmate tasing video. The governor immediately suspended Lemon from office, and the following day,
Hey, buddy. How you doing, Sheriff? I got something for you.
the governor appointed Larry McNeil as the interim sheriff.
Talk to him.
Despite Lemon on video ordering his deputy to shock the inmate multiple times and his federal indictment on a civil rights abuse charge, a jury acquitted him last year.
Thank you very much.
6 months after taking over, McNeil and his chief deputy, Larry Turner, found out what Sandy Wilkes was doing with those bench warrants.
Hello, how are you? I'm Jared Barthol. Nice to meet you.
I'm Mike Gifford. We're both with SLED.
McNeil asked SLED to investigate.
So, don't read too much into this question, okay? Because it's going to sound accusatory. It's not. It's just factual finding. So when Sheriff McNeil, interim Sheriff McNeil took over, did you ask him what you should do with the bench warrants that were only signed by the clerk?
No.
Okay, why is that?
Because he told us to proceed as we had been.
Okay.
And if he wanted to change anything, he would come to us. And the only thing really that brought it to their attention was that one particular one that they were looking for.
And that's sort of what brought all this to his
Correct.
attention. So he wouldn't even really known that you were shredding.
Correct.
Wilkes not only handled warrants, she is also the sheriff's office's victim advocate. She admitted to SLED former Sheriff Charles Lemon ordered her to shred any bench warrant Clerk Joy Williams signed.
And Lemon said he was not going to serve them unless they were signed by a judge. Is that
Right.
fair? Okay. So if it was only signed by the clerk and not by a judge, what did y'all do with the warrant?
Shredder.
And why did you shred them?
That's what we don't do with them.
Lemon told you to?
Yeah. Because they weren't signed by a judge.
Wilkes told the agents Lemon heard something about warrants at a Sheriff's Association meeting that caused him to target the clerk's bench warrants.
Did he say what was discussed at the Sheriff's Association?
It was
that made him
something
believe that?
about warrants having to be signed by a judge. His whole focus was, one, protecting himself in the sheriff's office, and things being signed by a judge. That's what brought this whole mechanism into play. And I have no idea what the class was about or what they said, because he was the only one there, so I can't help you with that.
So as far as you know, it wasn't anything personal between either former sheriff
No.
and either clerk.
No, I really believe whatever was said at that conference that he heard is what put that on his radar.
Mm-hmm.
So we called Jared Butler at the Sheriff's Association. He explained to us, yes, she has the authority to sign, but be careful because it's not signed by a judge. But the ultimate decision was left up to Sheriff Lemon, if to serve it. Our understanding is left up to the sheriff if to serve or not serve the bench warrant.
Okay.
And that's kind of when, Sheriff Lemon says, well, I'm not serving those because they're not signed by a judge.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I'd rather err on the side of caution.
The SLED report shows Jared Bruder told agents he did not recall ever talking to Lemon or Wilkes about a clerk's power to sign a bench warrant, and he never told Sheriff Lemon to shred them.
Did you have any hesitation on that?
I did not, because I heard him when he told him. I had the phone on speakerphone and it was laying there on the desk. There was no hesitation because I heard Jared say it.
So when Jared Butler, the attorney for the Sheriff's Association, told you that it was up to Sheriff Lemon to use his own discretion on whether he wanted to honor those bench warrants.
Correct.
You had no hesitation about not honoring them
No,
if they were signed by the clerk.
they were signed by the clerk. I didn't. I mean, he's attorney for Sheriff's Association. You know?
Wilkes joined the sheriff's office 17 years ago under former Sheriff Fred Knight. She told SLED Knight never told her to shred any bench warrants, even if they were signed by the clerk. The shredding started, she says, after the 2020 election, where Lemon and Williams won re-election as sheriff and clerk.
But I'm be honest with you, I don't think anything was done toward anybody with any hard feelings or malice or anything. I don't think that was the intention.
Wilkes said if Lemon had a grudge against Joy Williams at her office, she didn't know anything about it. At the end of her interview, Wilkes asked SLED for one favor.
You got any questions for us? Really? If somebody's, people always have at least one question.
No, other than the fact of, can y'all just tell Jody Barr not to bother me?
Asking questions is something the state law enforcement division has absolutely no power to stop. Can I talk to you before you head out? Were you ever instructed by Sheriff Lemon to shred bench warrants signed by the clerk? Did you think that was the right thing to do, is shred warrants instead of serve them? Hey, did you instruct anyone on your staff to shred bench warrants signed by the clerk of court? Charles Lemon, through his attorney, refused to sit for an interview with SLED. Is there anything at all you want to say before we air this report? Which is exactly what Lemon did to us before we tracked him down to question him about this nearly 2 years ago. Do you think those bench warrants signed by the clerk should have been served instead of shredded? The State Law Enforcement Division spent 3 months investigating this before turning the case over to South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson's office in October 2023. It took the AG 1 year and 2 months to make a decision not to file charges. Now, despite Sandy Wilkes admitting to shredding more than 100 bench warrants, the AG sent a letter to SLED. Wilson's office said it found insufficient evidence to merit criminal prosecution of Sandy Wilkes and former Sheriff Charles Lemon. The AG's decision closes this case, but still today, the state has not held anyone accountable for destroying those court records.